So today I want to talk about all the mistakes and reflect on all the mistakes that I made over the past 10 years as I've been building my wealth. For those of you who are new to the channel, I built up a $5 million net worth. 80% of that has been from real estate. Currently own around 51 units of real estate that cash flow around $8,000 to $10,000 a month, which is enough to replace my W-2 income. But despite that, I still continue to work my full-time job as a pharmacy director. And I just want to share, I've been reflecting today. I've been very self-reflective lately of all the mistakes that I made over the past 10 years and what I would do differently. So, I don't really regret it, but, it's nice to reflect it, that maybe you can learn something, or maybe it can help my future self learn something. But I would say my first mistake, and I wrote them down here, was not self-educating myself sooner. So in terms of like personal finance, in terms of mindset, in terms of personal growth, personal development, like I always loved to learn. Looking back, it was very exciting to me. I didn't study just to like get good grades. I got decent grades, but I always studied because I just loved to learn. I was always very curious, and that kind of fueled me in terms of being ambitious initially. So I graduated pharmacy school in 2013, and I didn't really start self-educating myself until like early 2018, to be honest. And back then YouTube was out. There was content on YouTube. Not as much as back then, but there's definitely access to information and podcasts back then. But didn't really have an interest in self-educating myself in mindset, personal growth, entrepreneurship. Wasn't really surrounded by anybody. The other pharmacists that I was doing was focused on that. All we were focused on was trying to get a pharmacist job and trying to survive our pharmacist job because we just graduated. That's why I don't give myself that hard of a time, but I wish I self-educated myself. My parents never really invested in real estate, never really invested much, so they didn't really know much, and you can't blame them. That's the typical family situation that people have, right? Like, you're not really taught how to manage money from your parents. The only thing I was really taught from my parents was how to just save money, right? The importance of saving money, the importance of not overspending on useless things, and the importance of having, basically a more frugal mindset. So, had I started self-educating myself sooner, it might have opened up my mind and my horizon a little bit, because when you grow up, all you know is what you're exposed to, right? So if everyone around you doesn't talk about real estate, doesn't talk about money, doesn't talk about investing, doesn't talk about financial freedom, doesn't talk about early retirement, then you have no exposure to that. And I had no exposure to that, just given my immediate circle of friends, right? Like a typical family would be upper middle class. The dad and mom will both work. Maybe household income around maybe 250K, and basically we just get a good job, work the job, get a pension, invest in a 401k, and eventually buy a house for you to live in. And that was pretty much about it. Like, that was the typical what I was taught. So when I graduated pharmacy school, I had $250,000 student debt, and that's all I was focused on, right? Like, I didn't really self-educate myself on how to pay it off faster. I just like, all right, well, I want to pay this student debt off as fast as possible, and that's what I did, right? I refinanced my loan. I lowered my interest rate. I made extra payments. I lived very frugally. I didn't lifestyle inflate. Working in actually a mentorship program talking about how to pay off your student loans faster in 8 steps that I developed without even really knowing it. But that ties into my second mistake that I made, is not buying real estate sooner. So from 2013 to 2017, I was focused on paying off $250,000 of my student debt. And during 2013 to 2017, hindsight's 2020, but real estate's a lot cheaper back then. And had I bought a piece of real estate in, let's say, maybe 2015, from 2015 to 2017, that property would have appreciated at least $250,000, which is enough to cover my student loans. So I literally just could have bought a house, 10% down, probably for around $700,000, $800,000, so 70, 80K down. And I had that money because I was throwing at my student loans. That's all I knew, right? Pay off my student loans. But had I bought a piece of real estate in 2015 with 70, 80K down, and then let's say in 2-3 years I held it and I would have sold it, I probably could have made enough money. And because it was my primary residence as a single, a lot of that money, the profit I would have made, would have been tax free for the most part. I think it's 250K but don't quote me on that. But I probably would have gotten close to 250K tax free, and I could have used that 250K to basically pay off my student loans, and pay off my student loans a little faster. So, but like you said, who knows, right? Like back then, I didn't know about rental real estate. I didn't know about apartment complexes. I didn't know about mobile home parks. I didn't know about any of this stuff. All I knew was I wanted to pay off my student debt, and after paying off student debt, I would focus on buying my own house, right, for me to live in. So my first goal was just to pay off my student debt. Second goal was to, buy a house for me to live in, right? But like I said, had I bought a piece of real estate in 2015 instead of, end of 2017, that house I bought in 2015 would have gone up by at least $250,000. And, I could have sold it, pay off my student loans, and, potentially have the mindset of knowing how to buy real estate a little bit sooner, right? So I would have started in 2015 instead of 2017 when I got started. So the next mistake I made, which I say is pursuing a master's degree. So a pharmacist degree is actually a doctorate of pharmacy degree. So technically I'm Dr. Stephen Nguyen. But on top of that, I decided to pursue a master's in public health through UC Berkeley. And I thought that, education, like I said, I love education. I love self-education. And I was curious. And all I knew back then was if you get more degrees, you get a higher pay. Fast forward to today, that's not necessarily the case, right? Like, just because I have a master's degree doesn't necessarily get me more pay as a pharmacy director. It doesn't really make me more competitive in getting a job. But what it really taught me was how to think more systematically and how to be more data oriented. Those are probably the two that I got from it. But I would say naturally I'm kind of that way anyways. I'm very system oriented and very organized and very systematic and very numbers oriented. Just naturally, that's just kind of the way I am. So not really sure if that $50,000 got me my return on investment. I would have much rather put that $50,000 to buy real estate back then. Once again, hindsight's 2020, but I probably would have put that $50,000 into maybe a piece of real estate or an asset that would make me money, right? Versus education. I get it. Education stays with you for life and it compounds. So it's hard to say if it was valuable or not, but at least from a financial standpoint, back then, I wish I just bought a piece of real estate. The next mistake that I made was, I had a video about this as well, but shiny object syndrome. So my shiny object syndrome got really bad in 2021. I started, self-educating myself a lot more, listening to a lot of podcasts, Bigger Pockets, School of Greatness, just a lot of things to give myself exposure. What's great about this phase of rapid learning was that it really started to question beliefs I never questioned before. So one belief I never questioned before was only rich people can own apartment complexes, and because I'm not rich, I can never own apartment complexes. This is a limiting belief that I told myself. I don't know why I told myself that belief, but this is just very common, right? Like you grew up being told stuff your entire life and you never questioned it, but by listening to podcasts, by self-educating yourself, this is now when I'm starting to question things, right? Like, oh, I want my beliefs to be questioned. That's why I love listening to podcasts, right? I commute at least 2.5 hours a day, and the whole time I'm listening to different podcasts, right? Real estate podcasts, mindset podcasts, and the whole point of these podcasts is to question some of my limiting beliefs or question beliefs that I've had subconsciously for my whole life, right? And one belief was, oh, like I can't afford apartment complexes. But the moment I bought my first apartment complex, it like snapped my mind. Or I saw people who were not as educated as me buying apartment complexes. It really changed my mindset at that point. And I was just like, wow, it really, I saw people just like me buying apartment complexes, and I just thought, well, if they can do it, I can do it too, right? So, I'm competitive in that way. So I was just like, okay, well, got my first apartment, got my second apartment, got a mobile home park, was looking at self-storage, was looking at retail strip centers, started an Amazon drop shipping business, started a independent retail pharmacy, started my mentorship coaching program, and started documenting my YouTube journey, which led me down to mentorship. So I thought I was amazing. Like, look at me, I'm doing so many different things, right? But fast forward to today, I'm like, damn, because of my shiny object syndrome, I was more stressed. I was juggling too many balls and doing multiple things poorly instead of one thing great. Made a lot of mistakes, lost a lot of money, right? I lost $60,000 on a mobile home park, as I talked about. I lost $30,000 on my Amazon drop shipping business. I lost $30,000 on my independent pharmacy. So I lost about $120,000. And all it taught me, which I think has value, is that just do one thing, and do one thing that you're really good at and one thing that you have an unfair advantage at. So for me, it's apartments in Oklahoma, and only apartments in Oklahoma, right? Like, I don't need to do a different asset class like mobile home parks, self-storage, industrial, triple net. I don't need to do that, right? I have an unfair advantage of single family homes in California because I live in California, so I can do that if I want to, right? So I can do single family homes in California, which is appreciation, and I can do apartments in Oklahoma, which is cash flow and appreciation. So just continue doing what I'm good at and what works for my lifestyle, right? So apartments in Oklahoma, I have a team, a system in place. I know the area. I should invest there. I know single family homes in California because I live in California, so that's my unfair advantage there. And in terms of like coaching and mentorship, I love to teach. I love to self-educate, and I've always been that way, to be honest. Like, my whole life, I would learn something new, and I would love to like share it with people, and it would annoy people because like they didn't want to learn, right? Like, when I first started dating my girlfriend, I would like over teach. I would learn something, be so excited about it, and I don't want to teach her, and maybe she cared or maybe she didn't care, right? So that was very natural for me. I could do it all day, and I love doing it, right? I love to teach because I wish that I grew up with a teacher, because I had to self-educate myself, but I wish I had somebody that could teach me things and shortcut myself, which is, why I joined a mentorship, and why I love to self-educate myself now, and why I love to teach people too, because I love to, simplify complex concepts and share a more transparent, realistic approach to what it's like, right? That's the whole point of my channel, is I want to show the good, the bad, the ugly, and the truth, and what I've learned along the way, and to make it more realistic for you, because I think a lot of content out there, it's too rosy, it's too optimistic, it's not realistic. So, and I listen to a lot of content, so believe me, I know, right? So I want to give people a, yes, you can do it. Yes, you can change your life with, investing in real estate, but it's going to be hard, and you're going to have to go through a lot of ups and downs, and it's going to take longer than you think, and it's not going to be fast and easy like what all the podcasts make it seem to be. So mistake was shiny object syndrome, right? So now I have clarity. I'm only going to do apartments in Oklahoma, single family homes, and build up my YouTube and my coaching, my mentorship program, because that's what I love to do. That's my lifestyle. The next one is not documenting my real estate journey sooner. So I started documenting my stuff, July of 2022, so a little over a year now. And before, I used to hate social media, right? Like, I used to be like, oh, these people are, so they love attention, they're narcissistic. But, I wish I documented my journey when I was buying my apartments. Like, I wish I documented, talking to owners, sending out my letters, talking to lenders, making offers, recording my inspections, my due diligence when I went on site, when I would tour Oklahoma, when I went to Alabama for my mobile home park. I wish I documented all that stuff, because I think it would bring a lot of value for you guys, but also, like, it's kind of cool to document my journey and my mindset at the time, right? Like, how much value would have been if I documented me and spending 8 hours inspecting my 26 unit apartment complex? How much value would it bring if I recorded my conversations with the leads I got from sending direct mail? Like, how much value would it bring if I documented my conversation with the lenders that I talked to, and how I pitched my deal and how I pitched myself, or talking to my property manager, talking to my general contractor? So there was just a lot of things that, like, I wish I documented, and it was just a limiting belief. Once again, I thought that only people who loved attention did that stuff, so that's why I deviated away from it. And to be fair, like, I was probably too busy trying to find a deal that I didn't have the mental bandwidth or the capacity to maybe document my journey. So, overall, just wanted to share kind of the mistakes I made over the past 10 years, and upon self-reflection, they're not, too major overall, but it's kind of cool to look back and see, what I've made, the mistakes I made over the past 10 years, how I've grown over the past 10 years. And excited for the next 10 years. And another thing, one more point that I just remembered was another mistake I made was I only looked at the upside. I never looked at the downside. So, like, I always, like, my mobile home park was a prime example. I thought that, okay, like, I can 10x my return on investment. Like, I bought this for $1 million, it could be worth like 10 million if it will take me 5 years to get there, but if I fill this park up, all 200 lots are full, and I'm renting them out, selling homes, turning the park around, it could be worth 10 million. And my downside I thought was around like, yeah, maybe I would, never really thought much about it, but I thought, okay, worst case I might break even or maybe lose 100,000, which came out to be true. But for me, now that I'm a more seasoned investor, yes, I'm looking, of course, at the upside, but now I'm more focused on the downside. Like, what's my worst case scenario, and can I take that worst case scenario and still be financially okay, right? So I used to not consider that as much, but moving forward, I definitely will. So hopefully you found value from this video. Hopefully you got into the mindset of the mistakes I made over the past 10 years. And hopefully it'll give you some insight if you're starting your real estate investing journey or your entrepreneur journey as to what's like. And if you have any comments or questions, please drop it down below. Happy to answer it, and hope to see you in the next one. Thank you so much. Bye bye.